So let's hear it again for our dancers. Thank you. So this morning we are on a transformational journey and calling in today the concept, the practice of oneness. It's a principle that the world needs now probably more than ever. And so what I'd like to do this morning is look at the metaphors, look at the scripture, look at the wisdom from our teachers over the ages and what they have said about this concept of oneness. And probably one of the most common metaphors is that of the ocean, right? Where the ocean is this vast body of water, and then we have the wave on the ocean, and the wave is no different from the ocean. It appears to be separate, but it isn't. It is a part of the same. Just as if we were to take a drop of water from the ocean, the drop of water is no different than the entire body of water. And so it is with us, because first and foremost, we are of spirit. Yes, we are divine beings. And the spirit takes on form as different bodies, and this includes all beings, not just humans. It takes our dogs and our cats and our horses and our trees, and all of life takes on a different form, but all of it is divine, all of it is good, all of it is spiritual. And the truth is that we are also eternal beings that cannot be destroyed, because the body is the outer form of this spirit. So an analogy that I wanted to share with you this morning is that of the air in this cup. So if we can imagine that, the air is God, the air is spirit, the air is divine, and the cup is the individual. It is the body, if you will. And so the air that is inside the cup is no different than the air that is outside of the cup. It just happens to be taking this form at the moment, yeah? And I can move this cup around and put it here and move it all different places, but the air is still there, yeah? The spirit, the divinity, if you will. And I can take this cup, it's not so easy to destroy, and I can destroy this cup. And once it is destroyed, where is the air? Is the air destroyed? No, the air still exists, yes? So it is with us. When our bodies are destroyed, when we die, when we have to lay it down, the spirit, the divine presence within, doesn't go, goes somewhere, obviously, because we're energy, but we are not destroyed. It does not cease to exist. So we are spiritual, eternal beings, and we are one. We may be different shapes and sizes, we may be different colors, we may be different nationalities, but we are souls and spiritual beings. And the way we express this divinity is unique to each individual, right? We kind of have like this soul map that we come in with lessons to learn and talents and gifts that we are here to share and to give. And as divine beings, we are Christed, if you will. We are anointed. Jesus said that you are the sons and daughters of the Most High. Do you believe that? Do you believe that you are sons and daughters of the Most High? Because you are. And unity has a practice which we call beholding the Christ. And that is the ability to look at each other and to see beyond the outer appearance, to see beyond the outer form, and to look into one another's souls, to look into one another's spirits and divinity. The word namaste means that I behold the divine presence in you. And the more that we can practice beholding the Christ and seeing the divine presence, I believe the more that we affirm this goodness, the more we call it out in one another, yes? Just as when we see the opposite, we kind of call that out in each other. Jesus said it this way when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. Not like yourself, or kind of, but as yourself. In other words, there it is again, the lesson of oneness, right? That we are all one. So we need this practice in order to heal and erase the concept of the other. So what is the other? The other is somebody we don't know, maybe somebody that we're afraid of, somebody that doesn't look like us or fit in with us. Sharif Abudullah, who wrote the book Creating a World That Works for All, he defined the other this way. He said, it is a person or a group that is unfamiliar to you. The other can take on threatening or sinister connotations for those operating from an I am separate consciousness. So again, we have the oneness, and we have, when we're in the I am separate consciousness, we begin to cast out and see others as the other. So whatever we see in the other is really also what exists in ourselves, right? So it's not just the goodness and the greatness and the wonderfulness that exists in me and in others. It's also the greed and the meanness and the anger that exists in me exists in others, right? So it's kind of all one package. It's not just one or the other. And it's so easy for us to see and own our positive qualities in others and go, yeah, you're just like me, you know, we're all so kind and wonderful. But there's also, again, there's the resentful qualities, the meaner qualities, and we can look at that and go, well, that doesn't describe me. That's somebody else. That's one of the others. And I think that that's why Jesus said, don't judge. Don't judge because, hello, you know, if you're going to judge, you've got this beam that's sticking out of your eye, and you got to pull it out before you can get the speck that's in your brother's and your sister's eye. So there's that projection. So when we have the other, when we have people groups that we call the other, then we're able to cast onto them our own hatred, our own fear, and our own separation. And what those who seek to destroy in the outer world, so when people are destroying things in the outer world, and yes, we have seen it this week, they're also seeking to destroy that in themselves. And so rather than just destroying themselves, the destruction goes out. And because of this acting out, then we all suffer the consequences. The Gospel of Thomas said it this way: that which is hidden from you will become plain to you, for there is nothing hidden which will not become manifest. So we can hide certain aspects of oneself, but it will manifest still in the outer world. So, how do we work with this? How do we claim the other? How do we invite in the stranger? So there's a group of women this week that are at a women's retreat, and I was with them Friday and Saturday up on Bainbridge Island. What a beautiful place. Oh my God, it was so hard to leave. It was so gorgeous up there. And the presenter was from a place that was about creating graciousness, and basically kind of what we're talking about. And how do you invite in the stranger? How do you create sacred space in the world, you know? We practice it in spiritual community, we practice it in church, but what about when we get out of here and we're out into the street? So she told a wonderful story about a friend of hers because they've been really wanting to practice these principles. And her friend went to a rally, I think it was in Bremerton, and her friend had a sign that said peace, right? And so she's walking around and she passes a young man who's in his 20s and he's holding a Confederate flag. And of course, she sees the Confederate flag and, you know, the stranger, the other, there he is, and all the things that she's thinking about him started to come out. And so she's like, all right, so how can I behold the Christ, although she didn't use those words? How can I see the divinity in him? So she went up to him and she started basically sputtering, she said. And he said, spit it out. What do you want to say? And she said, tell me about the flag. Tell me about the flag that you're holding. And he said, this flag symbolizes for me my family. I'm from the South, and this symbolizes my family, and my family is really important to me. So rather than arguing with him about, by the way, do you know what all the other things the Confederate flag means? She stood in the spaciousness and she said, so your family is really important to you? And he said, yes, my family is really important to me, and I'm stationed up here, and I miss my family. And she said, your family is really important to you, and you miss your family. Now, I get that this is basic, reflective listening and talking, but the situation is in a different place. And he said, yes, I really miss my family. And he goes, I've been up here for about a year, and everybody is so unfriendly. Everybody's so cold. It's not like the South, where everybody is, welcoming and invites you in. And she said, so I hear that you're lonely. He goes, yes, I'm lonely, and I miss my family. And then she said, why are you here today? What are you hoping to accomplish? What are you doing? And he said, I came here to be rude because I'm so angry, and I'm so lonely, and I came here to be rude. And she said, okay. And then they sort of just ended their conversation, and she walked off, and he walked off. And she wasn't watching, but one of her friends said as soon as she left, he took down his flag, he folded it up, and he put it in his backpack. That is meeting the other, right? That is meeting the other, to not stereotype him and put him in a box, in a position, but to call out this lonely boy who wanted to just push buttons and be rude, So how can you reach out to those that you may consider to be the other? Sharif Abudullah, in his book, Creating a World That Works for All, shares a story about a time when he was in Russia. And he was walking down the streets of St. Petersburg, and he's a black man, and he said there were 4 Russian skinheads standing on the corner, and they were just waiting for him to come. And he said, how do I approach this? In other words, again, we're talking about beholding the Christ. We're talking about seeing the divinity in a situation like this. And I want to share with you what he says. I was in conscious communication with them from a half a block away. And every step I took, all of my eye contact, the look on my face said to them, I see you. I acknowledge your humanity. I know you are in pain, but I am not the cause of it, and hurting me will not ease it. I am with you. Whatever you are feeling, I am feeling. Now, nothing was said. No words were spoken. This is what he said within himself. And he said, and then they rushed at him and they started yelling at him. And he said he didn't react negatively. And he said one of the reasons was he couldn't understand a word they said. So whatever they said got no reaction from him. And as if in a miracle, they just stepped away. They just stepped away. So while we're in church, we can do things like namasteing to each other. And of course, if we do that out on the street, we'll probably get clobbered, or of course it's Seattle, maybe not. But, but there are ways that we can reach out to those that we consider to be the other, to begin to heal this gap that seems to exist, to heal this separation that seems to be rampant. And I think that one of the things that both of these people did was they created spaciousness, right? So when she went up to the flag, she didn't react to it and give her stuff. When he saw the skinheads, he didn't react to them. They both created spaciousness. And are you not much calmer when you can create spaciousness in your life? Right? When we don't react, when we're cut off in traffic, when we're in a place of taking a breath and pausing, right? When your feelings are hurt, when someone says something to you that you think is insulting, or how could you do that to me? How could you say that to me? And again, taking a breath and a pause, rather than reacting, creating the space around you. Taking a breath. And so how do we create, and maybe how do you create spaciousness in your life? We know that meditation is probably the number one, right? Because you learn to just sort of sit there and not chase your thoughts around the room. Well, you chase them around the room, but you don't get up and chase them around the room, Chase them around the room while you're sitting there. So that's a practice in not reacting and not responding to every little thing that happens. I think activities such as dancing create space, as singing, as creative art, or being in nature. And this is Pet Blessing Sunday, so I couldn't say it without saying that, living with pets is a way to create spaciousness in your life, isn't it? For those of us who live with pets, right? I mean, they're always there, whether it's a cat or a dog or a guinea pig or a rabbit or whatever it may be for you. And I was researching this about creating spaciousness, and particularly also around pets. And there are actually health benefits, believe it or not, to living with them. And a woman by the name of Emily Holland has researched this. And she said one of the things that particularly dogs can do for us is they can encourage physical activities and getting outside. So what is one of the ways we create spaciousness? It is through movement. It is through being in nature. Believe it or not, animals that live with us can help us with allergies because it boosts our immune system. It seems counterintuitive, but that's what the studies are showing. It promotes social interaction. So I don't know about you, but when I take my dog for a walk, I stop and have lots of conversations with people. Actually, what's your dog's name? How old is your dog? Is it a good dog? Do the dogs get along? And then you go on, and there's another conversation and another conversation, and there's this spaciousness, there's this movement. Having an animal live with us can improve our emotional health, because who do you turn to sometimes when you're hurt, when you've been rejected, when things aren't going right? How many of you have held your kitty and cried, or held your little doggy, and they're there, aren't they? They're there offering that unconditional love, that support, and that spaciousness. I think also they keep us in the present moment. And they teach us not to take life so seriously. Because, boy, life is so serious, right? Life is so serious. And having a pet is like living with a cartoon sometimes, just the things that they do. And as you know, I have a puppy now who's 11 weeks old, and her name is Hazel, and we call her, she hazes the cats. She's... you try to get dressed and she runs off with your socks. You're in the kitchen and she pulls your skirt and pulls you back. I mean, it's nonstop, and it's like this interaction and this play. It's like she wants to just play 24 hours a day and bite and bite. But again, it's a way that we create spaciousness in our lives. So think about that for yourself. How do you create spaciousness, and how do you know when you need it, right? When things are sticking to you, like someone says something and you carry it around for the rest of the day, like, how dare you say that to me, right? Then we know that things are sticking to us and we can't move forward. So what is your practice? Because I think that the world is calling for us to be in this spacious place right now. Because again, like what we read in the book of Thomas is what is within us will manifest in the outer. It will just come out. Whether we see it or not, it's going to come out. Because the truth is, as we move forward in this month, we know that there is no other. There is only one. And like the ocean, we are one with the divine presence. We may be an individual expression of that, like the wave, like the cup. You are sons and daughters of the Most High. So whoever you think of as being the other, I would invite you this week to find a way to namaste them, to behold the Christ in them, only don't make it churchy, right? find a way to reach out, just as the woman did with the flag, just as Sharif did with the skinheads. We can be creative with this. We can have fun with this, for there are no strangers. There is no other. There is only one. So have a blessed week. Thank you.